When the government is privatizing the oil industry, you jump at the opportunity to try to build and profit from it. Do you want to learn how to play Pipeline?
In this video, we're going to take you through the full rules for this game, and if you stay tuned till the end, you can pick up some tips along the way. Coming up. Hi, it's Tarrant.
And Stella from Meeple University.
Now, let's get to the rules of Pipeline, game by Ryan Courtney and published by Capstone Games. In Pipeline, the nationally controlled oil market is about to be privatised, and players play the role of companies breaking into the market and trying to make the most money. Through the game, players will buy and sell crude and refined products on the open market, and will build and upgrade their own refining infrastructure through the purchases of tanks, machines, and pipelines. All of this infrastructure will be arranged into a personal network of connected pipes. Players will be attempting to compile long lengths of matching coloured pipelines, as this is what will allow crudes to be upgraded through the player's infrastructure. The game plays over 3 years of play, and at the end of that time, the player who has earned the most money through the purchasing, refining and selling of crude, as well as meeting the game's 4 valuation objectives, will win the game. I'm not going to take you through the full rules of setup, but I'll introduce some of the setup concepts as we go through the rules. When you finish a 4-player setup, the main board will look like this. At lower player counts, certain spaces on the board won't be used, and you can tell that from these red dots. For example, these 3 spaces would be used only in the 4-player game. Alternatively, you can use overlay tiles to adjust the board for your player count. Players should take careful note of 2 variable features of setup, as this should inform their strategy. The first is the 4 valuation tiles, which will give the end of game objectives which will be scored. This one, which is printed on a tile rather than on card, is used in every game, but the other 3 are random. Secondly, players should note the refining cost, which is set up in the top left corner of the board. Each of the steps here will have a randomised value between 4 and 7, and the crudes that have low values will prove to be easier to refine in this game. Each player begins the game with a player board, 1 cube of each of the 3 crude colours which is placed on this track, $40, 1 worker, and 5 tank tiles. To complete setup, each player rearranges the 5 tank tiles on their player board in any configuration desired. These tanks cannot be moved after they've been placed at the start of the game, and so this will set the grade of refined products which can be placed into that tank during the game. Choose a starting turn order at random and you're ready to play. Pipeline is played over 18 rounds, split into 3 years. During each year of play, infrastructure and resources will be gradually depleted from the main board. These will be partially replenished at the start of each year during that year's refresh phase. During each round, each player will take 1 turn in turn order, and a player's turn comprises the following steps. First, the player chooses one of 10 primary actions to execute, and does this by placing the worker on the space corresponding to the action. 8 of these actions are located on these spaces on the centre cross. The 9th action, buying government tiles, relates to the pipes on these 4 quadrants and involves placing the worker onto a pipe tile on one of the quadrants. The 10th action, which is running a player's personal pipe network, involves placing the worker onto a location in that network. The meeple serves only to remind you which action you've taken. Players' meeples do not interact with each other, so a player may freely take an action where another meeple is located. A player may also take the same action twice in a row, and simply does not move the meeple on that turn. Then the player resolves the primary action. Next, if the player has chosen an action from among the 8 on the central cross, then that player may pay $10 in order to take the other action on the same arm of the cross. This is called taking a secondary action. Then the player resolves the turn order track. If you did not take one of these 4 central actions from the middle of the cross, then simply slide your turn order marker down to the leftmost available space in the second row. If you did take one of those 4 actions, either as your primary or secondary action, then you may choose your position in the turn order track. This allows you to go either early or late in the turn order according to your preference. If there are already markers in your preferred location, you may push them to the left or right, retaining their existing order, to take your chosen position. Finally, a player's turn ends with the machine phase. Here, if the player has built any machines, they will be able to pay money to run them, but more on this later. Then proceed to the next player in turn order. After all players have acted for the round, then advance the round marker to the next round and slide all turn order markers back to the top. What you'll soon be finding with all of these actions is that there's a real balance in this game between money and efficiency of actions. With only 18 turns in the game, that doesn't amount to very many actions. And so anything that saves you on an action or a turn is going to allow you to get more done, but it's going to cost you more money. Money is very scarce, particularly in the early phases of the game, and so you've got to make these decisions wisely. So now let's look first at the actions which build up your infrastructure. The first action to build your infrastructure is to buy pipe tiles from the government, and those are these 32 pipe tiles placed on the board at the start of the game. To take this action, place your worker onto one of the government tiles. You must then buy that pipe tile. You may then also build any or all pipe tiles orthogonally adjacent to the one you placed on. Then, based on the number of pipe tiles you purchased, pay the price shown here. Each subsequent pipe tile you buy after the second will become more expensive. Once at least one pipe tile has been taken from a quadrant, that quadrant is declared open. During the first year of the game, there may be no more than 2 open quadrants. So if this were the first year of the game, players would not be able to buy these tiles or these tiles until the following year. Players would still be able to enter the open quadrants and buy tiles from there. In the second year of the game, a 3rd quadrant may be opened, meaning that the 4th one cannot be opened until the 3rd year of the game. The government pipe markets are never replenished, and so these will disappear as the game moves on. After taking government tiles, all tiles purchased must be placed into your personal network. Your first tile commences your network, and all subsequent tiles must be placed orthogonally adjacent to at least one side of a tile, in this way creating a connection. It is not compulsory for colours to match at a joint. However, it will usually be beneficial to do so, as you'll get the best refining power from having long lengths of unbroken pipeline. After placing pipe tiles, you should update your pipe track to reflect the longest length of each colour. This will help you see at a glance what refining capability you have. Here, the player has 1 length of orange, 2 lengths of grey, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lengths of blue pipe. The other 2 places where players can buy infrastructure are the shops, the tanks and pipes shop and the machines and pipes shop. Each of these 2 shops begins the game with 2 pipe tiles per player in the game and will be replenished to that number at the end of each year. Shop pipes are more expensive than government pipes, but the government pipes will go quickly, and so these may be the ones that you have to buy from. When you take the tanks and pipes action, you may purchase 0, 2 or 4 pipe tiles from that shop. Pay the cost, take the tiles, building them into your network as we described before, and do not replenish them. You may then also purchase as many tank tiles as you wish, paying the cost from the row you take from. These again are not replenished until the end of the year, so will become more expensive as the year goes on. When you purchase a tank tile, you must immediately place it into an empty space in your tank farm, thereby determining which grade of product that will hold for the rest of the game. The other shop allows you to buy machines and pipes. Pipes here work the same way as at the tanks and pipes shop, in that you can buy 0, 2 or 4, paying the cost, and building them into your network without replenishing. Additionally, you may build one or more machines, taking the machines and paying the cost from the row you took it from. Like the tanks, these will be replenished at the end of the year and get more expensive as the year goes on. Each machine that you've purchased must be built into your network by covering over half of one of your existing 1x2 tiles. You are not allowed to place a machine into an empty space. We'll talk more about how machines operate later in the video, but essentially they will automate the pipelines connected to them. Be warned, however, that a machine, if placed in the middle of a long pipeline, will split it in two. So here, the 8-length blue pipeline that did exist has now been split into a 4 and a 3. So now that we understand how to build up infrastructure, let's talk about how to refine. To take the refining action during your work phase, you must place your worker onto one of your 1x2 tiles in your network. You may choose to run each of the continuing pipelines that goes through that 1x2 tile once each. In this case, the player could run this 11-length blue pipeline, this 7-length orange pipeline, and this 6-length silver pipeline. The extent to which your pipelines will refine a barrel of crude or products depends on this section in the top left corner of the main board. This is the refining cost which was set up at random during the start of the game. This table shows the number of pipeline segments required to do a certain refining step. So consider here, the cost to refine orange crude to low-grade product is 7. The cost to turn low-grade product to mid-grade product is 4. As such, this length of orange pipeline could be used to perform either this refining step or this refining step. Let's say the player chooses to turn orange crude into low-grade orange product. Based on the refining cost table, this grey pipe would be enough to turn grey crude into low-grade grey product, but not from low-grade to mid-grade. And refining steps may be combined, so this blue pipe with a total length of 11 could be used to turn blue crude all the way into mid-grade blue product, since the total cost to do that would be 10. There are some important restrictions on this action. Each pipe may be run only once per turn, even if that pipe passes through your tile twice. Secondly, each barrel of oil may be refined only once per turn, even if multiple matching coloured pipes run through the same tile. Consider here, this one contains an orange pipe of length 7 and another of length 5. Collectively, this would be enough to turn a barrel of orange crude into low-grade product and then refine it again into mid-grade product. But each barrel can be processed only once per turn, and so the player would have to turn one of those crudes into low-grade product and use the second pipe on a different barrel. Thirdly, there must be room in the destination tank to accommodate the product. Here, there's no legal way to run this 5-step pipeline because there's no room in the mid-grade tanks. Note, however, that if your pipeline is long enough to do multiple refining steps at once, you do not need room in the intermediate tank. So here, with 8 refining steps, it would be legal to turn low-grade orange into high-grade orange, skipping the full mid-level. Finally, you cannot use this action to run a pipeline which is connected to a machine. As I mentioned before, machines will automate your pipelines, but it also prevents you from using the worker action to activate it. In this scenario here, the 7-length orange pipeline is off limits to the worker, and so only this 5-length orange pipeline and this 2-length blue one would be activated by this worker. Buying low-grade or crude oil and then refining it into products is the main way that you're going to gain money in the game. And so now let's look at how all of the market actions work for converting this into money. There are 4 markets in the game. The crude market, reflected at the top of the board, where you can buy crude oil, and the 3 refined markets, shown at the bottom of the board, each of which allows you to buy 1 grade of crude oil and sell products from the other 2 types of crude. When you take an action at any one of these markets, the action is resolved in 2 steps. First, you may sell as many barrels of oil from your tanks into that market. Then you may purchase as many cubes of oil from that market into your tanks. You must respect this order, resolving sales first and purchases second. To sell oil, take a cube and then move it to a matching coloured square showing the same grade. Then take the amount of money shown above the space. You may sell as many cubes as you want during the same action. If all of the spaces are filled, you may no longer sell into that market, although you can sell a cube as a lower grade if you wish. To purchase oil, take the cube and then place it into one of your tanks of the matching grade. Then pay the price as shown. Once again, you may buy as many cubes in one action as you wish, and you're not restricted only to buying crude. You can buy product cubes from the market if they're there and if you wish. Purchase and sale prices will vary as the year goes on. Generally, it will become more expensive to buy and less lucrative to sell. These markets will be partially, but not completely reset at the start of each year. The crude market works in the same way, except all three colours of crude are available for purchase or sale, and you cannot sell refined products here. There are other ways to get your refined product to market. One is by taking contracts at the Contracts and Loans action space. When doing this, you may take up to one contract from each of the 3 rows of the contract space. These are arranged into different rows based on the highest grade of product in the contract. Take the contract or contracts, not replenishing the spaces, and move them to your player board, choosing either to add them in a row along here as active contracts, or to place them up at the top of your board as a deferred contract. While the contract is active, you may, as a free action, move a matching barrel of oil from one of your tanks onto the contract. This may be done before or after your primary or secondary actions, but not in the middle of an action. You cannot move oil to a deferred contract. Once a contract is completely filled, you immediately gain money for that oil. The amount of money per barrel is shown here. It's based on the grade of the products, and it's equal to the lowest price that you could have gotten by selling that oil into a refined market. As such, selling your oil via contracts will save you a visit to the refined market and therefore save you an action, but will give you a lower return on your oil. Additionally, all of your active contracts must be completed during each year of the game. In the next refresh, you'll remove these cubes and have to fulfill that again in the following year. As we'll see when we talk about the refresh phase, any contracts you fail to fulfill will earn you a penalty. In addition to taking contracts at this action, you may also take one loan. To do this, take $15 from the bank and gain a penalty cube. Penalty cubes will be worth an increasingly negative amount of money at the end of the game. But if it gives you the influx of money you need to build your engine, it can be a good investment. There is one final way to get your products to market, and this is not one of the main actions in the game. This is a free action, which is known as fulfilling an order. As for fulfilling a contract, you may do this before or after a primary or secondary action, but not during. To fulfill an order, take an order tile from the board, not replenishing it, place it next to your player board, and then immediately fulfill it with oil from your tanks. If you cannot immediately fulfill it in full, you cannot take the order. Then gain this amount of money for each barrel supplied, which will be equal to the highest possible value that you can get for each type at the refined market. This means fulfilling orders can be very lucrative. You save an action and you'll get the highest amount of money you could for that oil. But you must plan more carefully ahead and make sure you have enough total inventory to fulfill the order at once, and you do risk having an order snatched out from under you by another player. The final action in the game is to buy upgrades. At the start of the game, the upgrade section will look like this. You'll have 5 columns of cards, each of which contain 3 matching level 1 cards, and then a level 2 and level 3 card. An upgrade cost token is placed at the bottom of each column. When you take this action, you may buy 1 or 2 upgrades at a cost of $20 each. You must start by buying level 1 upgrades, and you cannot buy a level 2 of a certain type until you have the level 1. Unless otherwise stated, you keep all of the upgrade cards of the same type and their benefits stack. After you've purchased an upgrade, flip the upgrade token for that column to the face down side. No one else may purchase that type of upgrade in this year. After you've finished purchasing either 1 or 2 upgrades, you may then flip one of these other tokens face down, making an additional column unavailable for your opponents. These will not flip back until the following year's refresh phase. Upgrades provide a variety of powerful benefits across the different areas of the game. Engineering upgrades make your pipelines more valuable, making them act longer than they're built, or even refine extra barrels. Government upgrades give you easy and cheap access to government tiles. Shops upgrades give you easy and cheap access to the infrastructure at the shops. Refined markets upgrades give you extra money and flexibility at the 3 refined markets. Contracts and orders upgrades gives you more flexibility and money for completing contracts and may let you take orders as if they were contracts. Machines upgrades make your machines more powerful and cheaper to run. And HR upgrades make your secondary actions cheaper and more flexible. All of the game's upgrades, particularly the higher level ones, are very powerful if you use them correctly. But be aware that it takes a lot of effort to get to level 3. You'll have to buy that upgrade every year of the game and be early enough to avoid other players blocking it out. After a player's work phase is complete, the player moves into the machine phase. A player with no machines skips this. If the player does resolve the machine phase, the player first pays $15. Then runs all pipelines that are attached to at least one machine. So here, the player could run this length 7 blue pipeline, this length 6 blue line connected to 2 machines, this length 7 orange pipeline, and this length 6 grey pipeline. Other rules relating to running pipelines are the same as they were in the work phase. You cannot run the same pipeline twice. You cannot run one barrel through 2 different pipelines in the same machine phase. You must have a tank to put the finished product into. And remember once again that pipelines you've connected to a machine can never be run using your worker. At the start of each new year, you'll move into the refresh phase. To refresh the contracts area, discard any contracts remaining in the rightmost column, move all contracts 1 step to the right, and refill the gaps in the leftmost column only, using the stacks that are placed off to the side in setup. Discard any pipes remaining in either of the shops. Then add 2 new pipe tiles per player to each shop. Refill both the tanks and the machines to capacity. Refill the crude markets and empty the refined markets based on the icons shown. Here you would put a maximum of 4 blue cubes, or until the market was full, onto the crude market, and remove a number of refined product cubes from each row based on the icons shown. Then flip any face down upgrade tiles back to the face up side, ready to be purchased again. Finally, resolve each player's contracts. For any completely fulfilled contracts, discard the oil cubes and leave the contract in place. For any which are not completely filled, discard any oil cubes on it and then discard the contract. Then take a penalty cube. Any contracts in your deferred contract space are then moved down into your active contracts. These will all need to be fulfilled again during the new year. Then, before resolving the first round of the new year, resolve any of the upgrades that have a start of year effect. This is any upgrade that shows the yearly keyword or shows the same icon in bright green. These should be resolved in the new turn order. After the final round is complete, the game is over, and you'll resolve end of game scoring. First, resolve contracts exactly as you would during a refresh phase. For any that you've failed to complete, discard the contract and gain a penalty cube. For any you have completed, simply discard the oil and then retain the contracts in case they score as part of the valuation. Next, gain money for any oil you have left in tanks. 30 for high grade, 20 for mid grade, 10 for low grade, and nothing for crude. The oil you see here is worth $80. This is a much lower rate than you would gain for selling into any of the markets. However, do note that sometimes the valuation cards will give you extra money for what's in tanks, and in those situations it can be worth holding. Next, you'll score each of your pipelines based on the highest grade of products that could be made from crude in a single refining step. This 13-length silver pipeline is enough to produce mid-grade product, and so that's worth $20. This 5-length teal pipe and this 8-length teal pipe are both adequate to produce low-grade products from crude, and so each is worth $10. None of the other pipelines here are long enough to produce products from crude. Next, each player will score the 4 valuation cards, which are common to all players. The first one, present in every game, is to score the value of pipelines attached to your machines, and so in this case each of these 2 teal pipelines would score again. There's a variety of different types. This one scores off the orders and contracts you fulfilled. This one scores off pipelines that produce mid-grade products from crude. And this one scores off grey products you have remaining and grey pipelines. Finally, lose an increasing amount of money based on how many penalty cubes you have. For 3 penalty cubes here, the player would lose $90. Players accumulate all of their money and the player with the highest score wins. In the event of a tie, whoever is earliest in final turn order breaks the tie. And that's how to play Pipeline. We hope that you enjoyed this video and we hope you enjoy playing.
If you enjoyed this video, please help us by hitting the like button, subscribe to us. You can also hit the Meeple in the corner to do so and hit the bell icon so you'll be one of the first to know when we have new videos. You can also follow me on Instagram for board games photos and reviews.
And finally, if you have any questions, comments or feedback, please write them in the comment section below.
Until next time!